Hey everybody, it's Norm here. I want to thank the sponsor of this week's episode of This Is Only a Test. And the sponsor is Casper Mattresses, obsessively engineered American-made mattresses at a shockingly fair price. And now you can get $50 toward any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/test and using the offer code TEST, T-E-S-T. Listen, you spend about a third of your life sleeping. I don't even know how many hours that is. It's a lot of hours. Make sure you're spending it on a good mattress. Casper brings together two comfy technologies for better nights and brighter days. Name the technologies with me. You got memory foam and latex foam. So get just the right amount of sink and the right bounce no matter how you sleep. They also have a risk-free trial and return policy. The mattress gets delivered straight to you. You can try it for 100 days. It's almost a third of a year. And if you're not happy, they'll pick it back up. At the store, you maybe get a minute to try the mattress. With Casper, you actually get to sleep on it for like 100 days. It's $500 for a twin-size mattress and $950 for a king-size mattress. Comparing that to industry averages, it's an outstanding price point. And remember, you can get $50 off any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/test and using the offer code TEST. Terms and conditions may apply.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, March 10th, 2016. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
Missed your point?
Hello. And no, what do you mean? What's the point?
You always point right at the
point at the screen or at the camera.
right at the end of the intro.
I didn't want to be overconfident about the camera working this week for the first 12 minutes. But I hope everything looks like it's going off right this time. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on this episode. I want to introduce our co-host this week. To my immediate left, you heard him earlier. It's Kishore Hari.
Hello.
And to his left, in the third seat this week, do you like that seat, Jeremy?
Yeah, I do.
It's Jeremy Williams.
Hello.
Thank you guys for joining me. And we're going to talk tech, we're going to talk science, we're going to talk virtual reality.
Can we talk Casper first for
testing? You want to talk about our sponsor?
Yeah, so I want to talk about our sponsor because I was out in Arizona last week. I was out for spring training, and I went to an arts festival outside of Scottsdale, Arizona.
Whoa. You were out for spring training. Baseball.
Yeah, the Giants flew me out for spring training.
Were you essential? Was there the science of pitching?
No, I was not essential at all. It was really cool. They let us on the field for like batting practice. Got to, Buster Posey 5 feet away.
How's it look? Cool. How are they looking?
I don't know
Scouting
anything
reports.
about baseball. They hit a ball far. I don't know. That's all I know.
You just know hockey and basketball and football.
They hit a ball. I mean, those Stars. It was the first day of spring training. Those Stars stayed in for 10 minutes and they were gone.
How was the crowd? Were a lot of people out there in
Arizona?
Arizona?
There were a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
It was fun. I mean, it was beautiful out in Phoenix, so it was great. But at this festival, Casper pulled up this big van, and I call it the Napmobile.
It's great.
Basically, it's a testing van where you can get on their mattresses, and they have these almost replaceable sheets, so that every time you get on, there's a new sheet.
Like a public toilet.
I wouldn't make that analogy.
The paper gasket.
Yeah,
or a doctor's office. The doctor's office. We have the roll, and then you just put it over the bed.
Yeah, but I think the toilet mattress analogy is just a bad one.
No, but
Well,
it's
you're not
same
expecting
It
to
was
on the bed.
super comfortable though, and some people actually got in there and just took straight up a nap. And
How long can you stay there? Is
You're
it
supposed
the
to stay in
library?
there for just a couple minutes, but I swear a couple people fell asleep.
Okay, this was in a truck, like a semi-truck.
Yeah.
And to be clear for everyone out there, we're talking about this not because Casper's a sponsor, it's because Kishore, you wanted to talk about this.
Oh yeah, it was
this
awesome.
experience, the scouting report
I
from
feel like this should be a
spring
thing.
training. So
I'm shocked it's not a thing in San Francisco. That's the first place.
I'm
I thought
shocked
it
they
would
don't actually call it the Napmobile.
how big is the truck?
be. I mean, it wasn't that big. It wasn't like a semi-trailer, like something.
I was visualizing. So, okay, like a moving truck, let's say a
Yeah.
big U-Haul or something. How many beds could they fit?
I think there were 2 in there that I saw.
Okay, so like bunk beds
No, not.
next to each other. Mm-hmm. No dividers between you and the other napper, the other
No,
testing
you're not
napper?
supposed to nap in it though.
Yeah.
but people were napping.
Well, I think somebody felt.
Because when you tell me there's a Napmobile that Casper's driving around, letting people test their mattresses on, I imagine a semi truck where it's like compartmentalized. So it's maybe like four wide and 3 tall.
Paid by the hour.
Right, paid by the hour. You swipe your credit card, use your Apple Pay, and then or your Google Wallet, and then you pull down the curtain, and then you wake up. You could be in another city.
You know what? They actually have a sleeper bus that goes from San Francisco to L.A. that just started. It's a night service. You board at 11 o'clock, and you get into L.A. at 7.
Is it like
And
Harry Potter?
Yeah, it seemed pretty similar. Everything is bunks, so you get to just take a nap, take the red eye into L.A. next time,
And maybe get some red eye because you don't know who's been sleeping on those mattresses.
That's funny.
It was pretty cheap though. You should try it.
There you go. The scouting report from Arizona from spring training and spring napping.
Guy hit a ball hard. That's all.
Hey, we're going to start off also with some pop culture news and discussion because for those of you who don't like it, deal with it. The Ghostbusters. We had some Ghostbusters talk this week. There's a new trailer out. Now, we're not going to go too in depth because there are people in this very room who aren't spoiling the movie for
Right.
themselves or even with the trailer.
Not on the podcast.
Not on the podcast. But the trailer for the new movie, the new Ghostbusters movie came out. What did you guys think?
I thought it was fine.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I
which
was-
is not the consistent internet opinion.
I guess I'm consistent with the internet.
Which is?
I was disappointed. Which I guess I expected to be. I mean, I was not looking
So-
forward to this movie
So
particularly.
let's throw out the trash, though. There is a set of people that have hated this because of the all-female cast that have come out. Those
Or
comments.
the fact that it's a reboot at all.
Yeah, I mean that's garbage. Let's
Yeah.
throw those things out. So,
Jeremy is not among those detractors.
I hope not.
so I mean, what was your problem with why were you disappointed?
It's Screwball, and I like the sincerity of the original. I feel like
The earnestness
The
of-
earnestness is a good way to put it. Murray was the only knucklehead of the bunch, and the other guys were kind of playing it straight. They were straight guys,
Even in a fantastical world.
right? And obviously, like Dan Aykroyd's crazy.
He's on the other end of the
right,
spectrum.
but
crazy,
but he was
yeah.
he was like sincere in his performance. I feel like and there was a subtlety to all of their comedy that I think is lacking in the new group. The new group is just straight up, silly faces, all making jokes.
There were some good jokes in that trailer, though.
Like
There are a
what?
couple.
Like what?
The joke about power of pain compel you. I laughed out loud
I
at
thought
that one.
I thought that was a little over the top. I actually like the Cadillac hearse though.
When they both said "Let's go," and then they're like, "Oh, you wanted to do it? Oh, I'm sorry. You do it next time." That falls completely flat for me. I only think I laughed once in the whole trailer.
So I thought the trailer was definitely overcut.
Yeah.
It felt like sort of like big action cut instead of just like what I don't think Ghostbusters will be a big action flick. So I agree with you on that, but I mean it was fine. I mean I think there's a lot of trailers out there that are much worse than this, like Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, that haven't gotten this kind of backlash to it. And I went back and watched the original trailer for the '84 movie.
Now this I haven't done.
That's bad. That
You-
trailer is
didn't hold
horrible.
up. Yeah.
No, let alone the movie. The trailer is terrible, and they tried to set it up where it's the phone call, like the TV advertisement.
Yeah.
Was sort of the theme of that trailer, and it just doesn't work. Annie Potts was great in it, but
Now, I completely agree with Jeremy that what I want out of a new Ghostbusters film is it doesn't need to be a remake of the original in terms of the story. I get the piece that need to fill. The important part is that these are paranormal scientists and they take their job seriously. And the
Right.
Ghostbusters also, it's a different New York, too. The 80s New York versus today's New York. I think Ghostbusters also, because tied to the city, needs to reflect some of the city. Both the history and also the culture of the city.
Have you watched the original recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. So does it hold up, or
Totally.
do we have Egon colored glasses?
No, I think it totally holds up. And some of the jokes work. They wouldn't work in like Bill Murray. Of course, his comedy works in any movie. And
Yeah.
There's a lot of Bill Murray comedy. I don't know who plays that role here, or if one person does. But the jokes that are in Ghostbusters original only work in Ghostbusters for the vast part. And I think I get what you're saying, Jeremy, that there are a lot of jokes that they could have just written for any other film, bits, right, that they put in this movie to get the laughs. And hopefully that's not the entire movie, and that was just for the trailer. It could
just-
have been trailer science.
It seemed like that it lacked subtlety, the comedy. Obviously I'll see the film. I will eventually see the film one way or another, and I'm not going to try to pass judgment on the movie. But we're just talking about the trailer. It just seemed a bit like There were a lot of bug eyes and silly, physical comedy bits that were just obviously people playing to the camera in a way that I don't think you saw in the first movie.
Okay, now did you watch the behind-the-scenes video about the Proton Pack, though?
No.
Because this actually made me way more excited for the film than the trailer. There's obviously new designs for a lot of the props in the film, from the Ecto-1 to wherever they're going to have their base. I don't know if it's going to be in the firehouse, to also the costumes in the Proton Pack. The new Proton Pack was designed in a specific way, and they work with MIT. James Maxwell, a physicist at MIT, did the video about how the original Proton Pack was designed based on what they knew about, particle field generators back then.
Is that right?
Miniaturized,
No
and
kidding.
they designed the new one, particle accelerators, and superconducting magnets. So the new Proton Pack reflects current understanding of particle accelerators and supermagnets and how you would generate that type of energy.
Oh, man. So you based it on like a synchrotron or something
Exactly.
like that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm trying to see if I can find the video.
It was like I don't know, it was like an unlisted YouTube video hidden. It could have been like a surprise thing on their site. But Sean tweeted it and I retweeted it. And they, MIT's Lab for Nuclear Science, they went there and looked at what are the machines that you guys are building to conduct scientific research? Oh, that looks cool. Now, how would that be adapted for a Ghostbusters movie? Because they wanted to have at least some basis in the real world.
I like that. Dan Aykroyd is famous for being, believing a lot of this stuff. He's into the supernatural in a way that most people aren't. It doesn't surprise me that they wanted some authenticity to the original props.
Yeah. Aside from Ghostbusters, another kind of nerd franchise, pop culture franchise that isn't a remake but is an adaptation that I'm really excited for is Neil Gaiman's Sandman. And we got some news this week that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who had previously been attached to, I don't know if direct or
He's the one that got it greenlit, so he was producing it.
He is now off of the project. The rights of the Sandman series, the graphic novel series, reverted from Warner Brothers to New Line or something, and he just had the famous creative differences explanation for departing the project.
So DC took all of the rights to the Vertigo line and passed that down to New Line Cinema, and which is where all the conflict started. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt got all the heavy hitters. He got Neil Gaiman was in as executive producer, and David Goyer was writing the script.
I have mixed feelings about David Goyer.
Okay, but it's not like he was just getting somebody.
Sure.
He got somebody with some bona fides, but it was kind of a depressing note if you read the note from Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because it seems like it's been 3 years since it got greenlit, and this seems like it'll just stall it out.
It's a story that I think is not best served in cinematic form. I think what they're doing with Preacher, that Seth Rogen and his writing partner are doing, bringing that series, that's Vertigo, I believe, right? Vertigo series to miniseries is kind of the format that Sandman should take. It's a wonderful, wonderful comic. Both of those are awesome, and I think the TV and Netflix and Hulu are now primed to produce those types of shows to our satisfaction. I think that's all the pop culture news we want to talk about this week. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about?
Nope.
No.
Let's move on to technology.
Let's move on to technology. Sad note in technology this week. We're going to start off with the death of the inventor of email.
How about that?
Yeah. And he popularized the @ symbol.
And he saved the @ symbol.
Save the @ symbol. Tell us that story.
I don't know. I don't think I know that story. I just heard that somewhere that he's the one that integrated that @ symbol into the email syntax, and that's why he sort of resurrected that symbol.
Ray Tomlinson invented direct email messages in 1971, and before then, because you can imagine because this is before internet, but before email, how would electronic messages, how were they facilitated? They would only be within network. There would be no email across networks, no server set up to kind of route them. And email.
So you only needed a username.
Yes, right. And it was a universal standard for network systems. And it's sad. I think he was 74, and the format that he had that he set up for email with the @ symbol and domains is still, of course, used today.
Did they manage to keep his like first email or something, or
I don't
preserve
know.
it?
It's a really good question. What was the first email address?
Or at least like, is there an Alexander Graham Bell moment for email, where
Come
know,
into the room.
I'm sure it's a Viagra spam.
a prince of Nigeria, or the internet first. Interesting. You can dig up like the first picture that was sent, which I think was, is it test image or like a lewd picture or something.
Really?
But there's all these interesting internet firsts that are in they're in recent history relative to us, but that I think like they're cool Wikipedia pages about, but that we don't get, like, no one knows what the first, I guess you know what the first tweet was in the first YouTube video, but no one cares what the first Snapchat was, or I guess the point of that was that it would be deleted, but the first Slack message or anything.
Those are all modern technologies.
Yeah.
People
but-
use. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I guess you use email as well, but
Right, but I don't know if anyone's archiving that, because there's so many
Yeah.
services popped up. They're not significant enough that no one knows if they're going to be the unicorn that it's going to be worth data logging everything.
So what are they counting as the invention of email? Is that a 90s thing? Was that, because I'm looking up email in Wikipedia and it says invented, it's been around since 1993. I would have thought earlier with the ARPANET.
I think ARPANET is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
In terms of the @ symbol.
That's where he worked. He worked with a company that helped design
Got it.
ARPANET, and he sent the very first email in 71.
71. That makes more sense. Cool.
There were also some products announced right after we recorded our podcast last week. I do want to talk about Amazon's new products, the Dot and the Tap. Now, all three of us in this room are fans of Amazon Alexa.
Heck
of
yeah.
Amazon Echo. And
Alexa, if you're at home listening to me, set
Tell me a
alarm,
joke.
8:30 p.m.
turn on the office lights. Alexa was not very well reviewed when it first came out.
What do you mean? Wasn't
Last
reviewed by
year.
a lot of people or didn't get good scores?
Didn't get good scores.
see.
I think some people saw limited potential in it. Some people thought, and also Amazon released it in a funny way because it was invite only. There was,
That's right.
it was, even though the MSRP they listed at $200, it was for Prime members only, and it was sold for $100. So like you couldn't evaluate the value proposition there fairly because it wasn't a mass market product. And I think when we reviewed it, Will and I reviewed it, we really saw as okay, what does it mean to have a device that taps into this type of knowledge graph, this type of service, cloud service, and also listens all the time, because it wasn't the first to do that. Google Now, Siri, they tap in the cloud service all the time, but the first one to be set in the middle of your room and have a omnidirectional
Right.
microphone array.
That wasn't push to talk.
Exactly, not push to talk, passive listening, and Connect is passive listening to a certain extent, but then doesn't have the knowledge graph that Siri, Google Now, and Echo have. Well, Amazon, they finally now iterated on Alexa 2. You can buy an Alexa. Anyone can buy an Alexa now for
Well,
I think
now-
still $200.
The new stuff's not Alexa 2.
It's not Alexa 2, but it is, I think, the next version of how they see the Alexa being used.
The hardware.
The hardware.
Yeah.
Now, you have two Alexas already.
I do.
Yeah, and I think most people probably have just the one, because to spend...
I have just the one because I didn't want another speaker.
That's right. You don't need and I think the Bluetooth speaker aspect of Alexa is the thing I use the least about it.
Oh.
Like I have plenty of speakers in the house, or things I can plug in, headphones and
You
home
use it
theater
as a
systems.
speaker?
Yes, all the time. Yeah, we play music on it. And I mean,
The one in our kitchen, we use it for that.
yeah, that's where our primary one is. I wanted one in my office for playing music.
Oh.
So and it's not, obviously she doesn't exactly have a subwoofer, but it's good enough, like I've always said about that speaker.
So there are two new products. One is called the Tap, and I think that's the less interesting one. It's a portable Bluetooth speaker, a lot like those Logitech UE booms,
Yeah.
and that we like. I don't know about the audio quality yet.
With a rechargeable battery.
With a rechargeable battery and a Wi-Fi adapter inside. So it does connect to local networks because it has Alexa.
But it has push to talk Alexa.
That's the thing. It is push to talk Alexa. It does not have the omnidirectional microphone. So I'm curious about how useful that device is going to be.
I think they looked at the party music segment. I don't know what it is, like maybe the patio music kind of segment
The pool-
of the
pool-
market,
yeah.
the pool party. And there's going to be a lot of chatter out there. And the last thing you want is your music dipping down for false positive every 15 minutes.
But then, is it worth even having that type of service?
Right,
Alexa
if you have
on
to
there
walk up to it and
at
talk
all.
to it.
Why not? Well, they just sell a
It's
Bluetooth
also-
speaker.
Or just use your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
expensive too. It's $130, which
$130.
is a lot
Yeah.
for a Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah, and so assume one of the knocks against Echo was that the Bluetooth quality was okay. It wasn't the best Bluetooth speaker you could buy. Good for $100, better than your Jawbones, but not going to be as good as a really nice one that you can get for $250. The other product Amazon announced along with Tap is the Spot.
This one,
I'm sorry, the
about.
Dot.
The Dot.
The Amazon
I'm
Dot.
excited about this.
Yeah.
And this has the omnidirectional microphone. It looks like a puck. It doesn't have the big Bluetooth speaker. It does still have audio feedback, but this is your passive tap into Alexa. So this feels really like, in my mind, the next gen Alexa.
But this is just Alexa without the speaker.
Right. Which is like but next gen Alexa without the speaker, cheaper, $90.
Yes.
This is how you get it to the next level in more and more rooms.
Yes.
Because you don't want to spend $400 on two
Well,
Alexas.
I think key to that is going to be a mesh network of Alexas within a house.
Right.
And they don't do that yet. If I say Alexa in my living room, they both say ding, and then they both accept my answers.
And
or
Spot
questions.
doesn't know, or Dot doesn't know
Exactly.
that other Echoes or
But that-
other Dots exist.
That feels like something that can be overcome
Absolutely.
within the current architecture.
Yes. And
It's a software problem.
I just think once that is overcome, this will be a more popular device.
Well, I love this because like the place I spend a lot of time beyond my office and the kitchen that I want to use it is the living room, where I want to be able to interact with Alexa in a really natural way.
Yeah.
But I have a sound system in there,
Right. So Dot
so I
does
don't
have
want that speaker.
it has
Right.
audio out, so you can plug it into your existing speaker system. But it also has a small built-in speaker for just the feedback, the commands for controlling, for home automation, because you can do things from ordering an Uber or, all your lights and
I've
home automation.
never ordered an Uber or a pizza or any of that stuff yet with Alexa.
No,
but
neither.
But I've done the Wemo integration, or in my case, SmartThings integration.
Now, here's the other weird thing. Just as Echo was only released for Prime members at a limited price point, Dot is only available to Alexa owners,
Oh, no way.
to Echo owners, and
But-
you can only order it right now, currently, through
Huh.
Echo.
Why is that?
That's a really good question, right? Like, because you would think
Isn't it pre-order? It's not. It's not like it's ready to ship. Right
end of
now.
this month, you're right?
Yeah.
End of this month, but they're really billing it for people who already have Echoes in their home and want to add another one in a different part of the room. I don't think it's a money thing. I think it totally builds into your theory that the mesh network is going to be the way to work. So
Yeah.
I don't know how well. I mean, assuming you can buy one this month, you must, or you have two devices, right? You're going to have them in more than one room. They have to work together somehow on your network. Yeah. So who knows? And also, we always forget that Echo has a remote control that you can do push to talk on.
It doesn't come with that anymore, I don't think.
Oh, was that also a limited time thing?
Yeah. Well, no, they decided nobody used it, and so they didn't
I don't
include
even
it.
know where mine is.
Yeah.
And there you go. I think that may prove that Tap may be an ill-conceived device,
Yeah, I
because
think
the
so.
push-to-talk aspect of it really isn't what's appealing about it. Yeah, which I'm so amazed that Google, they had OnHub, and Apple they haven't made, with the new Apple TV, haven't made a passive, omnidirectional
Yeah.
device, a microphone device to tap into their services.
This is I've always said this is the closest thing yet to the Star Trek computer, and if they can figure out this mesh network and we start putting these throughout the house, and we can then somehow use speakers in each room of the house, like that's just a matter. It's just a wiring problem as well as a software problem.
Yep.
We'll have it. You'll be able to access knowledge with your voice no matter what room you're in your house.
And Google, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think the mesh network, you're right, farther afield. The short-term thing I actually want to see is, I feel like the Dot should just integrate with the Fire TV.
Yeah.
Because, they already have that sort of tap to, universal search. There's no reason those devices are sort of separate right now. If you just add a speaker on the Fire TV, it would make it instantaneously more useful than the Apple TV and the Roku right now.
There you go. And Google have said that their AI research is toward building the Star Trek computer. Like they talked about experimenting with a comm badge like system to tap to activate Google Now, which they decided not to do. And I think as much as Star Trek was prescient about the future and the way we would vocally interact with computers, the software now has exceeded the expectations of those writers in its ability to differentiate between voices and pick up commands so that you don't need to tap a comm button or anything. And to be fair, also to apologetics, that the comm button wasn't just to access the computer in Star Trek. The comm button was also to register your identity and be able to track you, because you would leave your comm badge on the table if you didn't want someone to follow you.
Who was the voice of the Enterprise? It was Gene Roddenberry's
Yes,
wife, right?
Majel Burnett Roddenberry.
What's her name?
Majel?
Majel?
Yeah, M-A-J-E-L.
Always
She
Loxana
recently,
Troy to me.
Loxana Troy, she passed away, I think, a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they did get her in the 2009 Star Trek to do the voice of that computer.
Yeah, I thought so.
They did before she passed.
I didn't know she passed. I was thinking what a coup that would be for Amazon to license her voice for Alexa.
I think it needs to separate itself. Actually, I think Alexa's voice right now is actually pretty calming.
I think
like it.
I think it's great. It's very realistic.
I do want to talk about Google and AI. Now, Jeremy,
Yeah.
last night you spent
3.5 hours
3.5 hours
watching a Go game. My first Go game.
I'm totally shaking. I'm shaking my head.
Let's explain what I think we did. What Go is, but it's a
Strategy game.
tabletop.
Yeah, ancient, 4,000-year-old, I believe Chinese strategy game.
Right. Not like Chinese checkers. This is actually
Yeah.
like complicated Othello.
Exactly. Yeah, I think people who are into board games consider this to chess what chess is to checkers.
And we had mentioned this, that there is an AI called DeepMind that Google developed that was capable of beating very, very talented players. And Google has now set it
Yeah.
up to compete against the best Go players in the world and broadcast these matches live. And so you watch the very first one.
This was the first time that AlphaGo, which is the software, has ever played a 9-dan Go player, which is the top rank of professional player. There's 9 different ranks of professional players. And it won. It was a Korean player that a lot of people consider to be the best in the world, and he played last night for 3.5 hours and won.
It was match 1.
It was match 1 of 5.
So you still have time. You have 20 hours of television left ahead of you, I guess.
Now, how do they do with the commentary?
It was actually, I mean, it was very, they didn't spend a ton of money, but they did a great job in who they hired. They hired the only North American, at least for the YouTube broadcast, they hired the only North American 9-dan player in the world. And he watched the whole game, and he was with someone who also runs a magazine about Go. And they basically watched the game with you, and they explained what the strategies were that you were watching, and then they played out variations that might happen based on the strategies that they were seeing. And more often than not, the commentator, the pro commentator, was right. Like, he would predict the next moves
that the AI would make.
that either would make, and he was very often correct about it. So that was kind of fun to watch, to see him get inside the
They
strategy.
had a second board up in their sort of commentary room.
Yeah.
Right. But
Which
how,
is cool looking.
Was there a time, like competitive chess? There was time constraints
Yeah.
for each move.
Not for each move, but each player was given 2 hours to spend, however they wanted.
And then you tap the timer.
Well, no, I think it was automatic. Whenever the player would lift their finger off, that meant that their timer stopped. And one interesting fact, if you think about it, was Lee Sedol, the reigning champion, his timer would stop when his finger was lifted off. But AlphaGo's turn ended when his surrogate lifted the finger off. So AlphaGo would decide on a move, and then the operator would have to look at the screen and then translate that into an actual human motion. So there was a bit of a added
Human limitation.
Exactly.
Always.
But then I also realized that this operator is AlphaGo's avatar.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wrap your head around that.
Wow. What I was struck is I kind of fast forwarded to the end this morning to watch it, and the commentators were actually genuinely surprised at the outcome. They thought the human was going to win.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently
Yeah.
throughout.
Despite the win last month against another pro player, they'd never played a 9-dan.
I know this is a weird phrase, but was it close?
Yeah, no. The commentator, the 9-dan, could not call it up until like 10 minutes before. And then he started saying, I'm thinking that AlphaGo may have this.
Was there a
But it was
nervousness in his voice,
hours.
or is it excitement?
No, very cool guy. Very cool guy. I mean, he. I don't know. He's highly intelligent. I think he was just very logical about the whole thing. The other guy, the magazine guy, he couldn't sit down. He had butterflies. He was flipping out. But he saw this as a really historic moment, not just for Go players, but for humanity and.
So Google
technology.
has more of these matches planned.
Well, there's 4 more in this actual
in
round,
the series.
In the series,
in the series, it's all against different.
No, it's all
grandmasters?
it's all the same guy.
Same guy.
Yeah,
okay,
5
so
matches.
It's about. It's
Yeah.
It's going to be best of 5.
Well, I don't know. It may be. Is it best of 5 or is it
I
5
don't-
games?
maybe
I don't
they
know.
No, they
five.
play all 5,
Yeah.
I believe. So
Now, they didn't have a computer scientist there explaining the quote unquote thought process of DeepMind, did they?
No, that's what Kishore's here for.
we're talking. There are more. What did you say last time we were on the podcast? There's more moves in Go than atoms in the known universe.
More variation. Yeah.
Oh, so let me start by. I'll start. Dissecting it from right there.
I would love to know this. I mean, I would love to sit down and pick the brain of Google engineers over this, having watched this match.
And is it a feedback mechanism, or is it
Right.
Is it a neural net? Is it going to learn from these 5 games?
They were saying that it was playing differently than it did last month, that it was more aggressive this time.
Oh, so I wonder if it's going to change even over the course of these matches. Then,
Right.
if it's going to start blowing him out as we progress forward, he better be nice to it. That's what I.
When the game ended, did the operator go limp and the stick behind his back fall out,
Yeah, right.
like the Twilight Zone?
I-
They did not show
I
that.
want to see it like taunt him a little bit. If it knows it's gonna win, just like really like take its time.
There
with
was
the
one-
timer. It's like keep your finger on that piece.
There was one point where the Korean pro, Lee Sedol, started laughing after the AlphaGo made a move. So it was as though he was seeing something in the movements. He was surprised about something about his movement. The
'Cause-
move that he chose.
That's interesting because you take away the psychological aspect from one direction. The psychological aspect only applies
Yeah.
for the human player.
And the fatigue.
Yeah, right.
Or
And
what have you, yeah.
and does the human player then play differently because they know they can maybe physically be looser, or they don't have to maintain that type of physical presence,
Right.
Because it's just a mental game at that point.
Yeah. And do you shake the operator's hand when you're done? He didn't play the game.
No.
It's very interesting. But what I've heard about the way that it approaches these problems is that since there are so many possible variations, moves that could be made, they can't branch that out and follow each path. AlphaGo can't imagine every possible movement and game that could happen, like they might be able to with a chess game, for instance.
I don't think they can do it with the chess game either.
They can't even do that?
No.
Okay, well this is...
Checkers, yes, is solvable.
Okay, so this is far more complicated than even that. So they have coded AlphaGo to essentially use intuition and imagination in a way that's supposed to, we've always considered to be human traits.
It's a combination though, because it still does tree-like searches.
Yes, absolutely. I think for a smaller set of
But I think it's
possibilities.
more about like
But as do people.
Yeah.
assigning probabilities, and then a little bit of intuition. Really just means taking other data sets and applying the weights of those data sets to unknown quantities.
Right.
Very interesting.
It's cool to watch. I mean, the game is you want to surround your opponent with your pieces, and that didn't happen once for about 3 hours. And it just seemed like black was surrounding, white surrounding, black surrounding, white. It was a really interesting board to see at the end, and everyone was shocked when at the very end of the game, AlphaGo's pieces spelled out "I am God."
That is
It was
surprising.
crazy. No one saw it coming.
I didn't see that coming either.
You're not being serious.
No, I'm not.
Wait, when
doesn't-
it also told the human to flip over the board, I was like, wow.
and it played the haters gonna hate animated GIF, right? Just strolling down.
Yep.
So, did it make you more interested in Go as a game?
I mean, it made me intimidated to play Go, to be honest with you, because it really does seem like a deep game, and it's not. I like to be able to master things, and this ain't happening with Go anytime soon. But I would play, a 9-year-old in Go, sure. I'd give it a shot.
I like how you're equating your level. You're like 9-year-old. I can
Although
take down.
I guess they start very young, like the masters start that young, so maybe that's a bad idea. Maybe 5-year-old.
And in the grand scheme of AI, this AI is but an infant.
I know. It's terrifying.
Speaking of other Google products and Google things, last week Kishore and I reviewed the Nexus 6P, which you love. It's Google's flagship Nexus phone, their 5.7-inch phone, I believe. It's very large and in charge. And the other interesting thing about your testing of the Nexus 6P is that you've been using Google's Project Fi, which is their cellular service.
Which has generally been pretty good.
And
I thought you loved it.
I do love. I mean, Project Fi. It's like anytime you switch cellular networks, I think you need a really long time to say like whether you love it or not. It's generally been pretty good, and I've saved a bunch of money. From it. Like I've saved about like $40 over, or about $35 over 2 months.
And Project Fi previously was invite only.
Yeah, and
they were handing out invites.
They were handing out invites pretty quickly, but it was kind of in a beta, if you will.
That's right. But now it is available to everyone. It only works with a subset of Android phones, the Nexus phones, of course, and with the ones with the right radios that can tap into T-Mobile, Sprint's networks. But you also, if you sign up for it now, you get $150 off a Nexus 5X.
Yeah, and we didn't review the 5X, and the 5X has some problems. I think you can read Ryan's kind of review on Tested. But $150 off that phone to sign up for the service is incredible. That's like a $200 phone now.
If you're signing up for that service with the intent of, like T-Mobile's good in your area, you don't use a lot of data, and the point is to save money, getting that $150 off of the Net 5X makes it that much more appealing.
There's actually a few people that are using Project Fi on their iPad, not for like the cellular data, just for the data, not for like the cellular service. So there are other devices that you can sort of hack your way into, if you will.
Wait, it works with iPad radios?
With the Pro, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Now, speaking of Android stuff, there's actually Android L Lollipop is what the 5X and the 6P debuted with. This year, there's actually, Android, not Lollipop, Marshmallow. M. This year, it's going to be Android N. Now, we don't know what N stands for.
Nougat.
Is it Nougat?
Nougat.
That's what we call it.
Necco wafer.
Dude, I had some amazing nougat from France. Yeah, it was incredible. I'll find the link in the show notes and put it up on the website. Highly recommended.
Well, today, Google has made available a developer preview of the next version of Android, Google N, on Nexus devices, so you can actually try it out. And it will have split screen multitasking for tablets.
Wow, what do you think about that?
Been there.
Yeah, I know. That was my first reaction too.
I like split screen multitasking on the iPad Pro a lot. I use
that's
it.
a giant screen.
It is a giant screen. On a phone, we can do top-down split screen. I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. Split screen multitasking is very computationally intensive compared to phones. So this is a feature, if it becomes useful, if, for example, apps can be designed so you can have a scrolling Twitter feed in the bottom 1/3 of your screen or something, or your Slack feed or something, and then still be able to compose an email or browse the web. That's going to take more memory and also more processing power. And so the diminishing returns that we've talked about on modern flagship phones become less relevant, and we're going to need more of that power and more of that memory and more of the battery life. There's a bunch of stuff coming with Android N, but I think battery life also should be getting better. It's interesting that they're releasing this developer preview, and I think it's something you can download and try out on your phone. Kishore, is that something you're gonna
Why not?
sign up for? It's g.co, the easiest domain to remember.
Sure, let me sign up for it live right
Android beta later today, and you can download a device image that you can then run on. Google at the same time also dropped the price of their Pixel C tablets from $500 to $350. So for anyone who wants a dev tablet, I don't think the Pixel C has been well reviewed. Ryan didn't like it that much at all. So
That's a Google device?
yeah, the Pixel C.
How's it compare to a Nexus 7?
It's the tablet wise.
Yeah.
It was a weird hybrid device. So the rumor with the Pixel C was that Google had originally developed it for not running Android, but running a next version of Chrome OS.
Okay, yeah.
But it ended up being an Android device, and it has like a weird fold-out keyboard attachment you can buy. It has the latest NVIDIA processor, but there were some problems with it.
Got it.
Yeah, but $350 now, maybe worth it for you if you're developing Android apps. I do want to talk about drones a little bit. Now, we have the Phantom 4 in.
So you keep apologizing for our topics, it sounds like.
Well, I never know what you guys want to talk about.
I love this stuff.
And I think the
Jeremy's Phantom 2 that crashed into a mountain really wants to hear about this topic.
the Phantom 4 is interesting because it has optical sensors on the front for object avoidance. And I don't think, just with the first few flights of the Phantom 4, I don't know if it's going to be like game-changing as the product is today. But we all know that object avoidance and autonomous flying is only going to get better. And we're seeing, and it's going to be both on the software side and the hardware side. A lot of this actually kind of dovetails with our talk of virtual reality, because on the quadcopters, a lot of the object avoidance stuff, they work with cameras, optical cameras, infrared cameras, or tracking of external tracking. For example, when you see those research videos of swarms of drones flying together, they're all being tracked. Like that TED Talk we saw released from Vancouver.
Beautiful.
Last month. Yeah, awesome. And there's a video on MIT's Media Lab, or not Media Lab, MIT Technology Reviews website, where they chat with a new company, Skydio, and them, along with 3D Robotics, have released videos of their autonomous drones flying in basically uncontrolled space, indoors and outdoors, avoiding obstacles, front-facing, right?
Pretty close to what you would call fully autonomous.
Fully autonomous. Now, anyone who's flown a drone before kind of understands how these quadcopters work, and watching these videos can see like between the lines, right? That's still under controlled conditions. That it's only going to work at certain speeds. They may be at fast speeds, but there are inherent limitations. And the reason I say it dovetails with virtual reality technology is because of the idea of sensor fusion. It's not just going to be the camera systems on these drones that help them avoid objects or aware of its surroundings. It's a combination of many different sensor technologies.
Don't they share information with each other?
Some of them do, and I think that's going to be important. The mesh style
Yeah.
system. I mean, it also ties to autonomous cars and how autonomous cars in the future, the best autonomous car network is going to be one where the system is closed.
Right.
Right. Google has this incredible challenge of building their autonomous cars networks because they need to work alongside not only environments they can't control, the real world, and also cars they can't control, and people. Same thing with, I think, drones, right? And it's not reasonable to assume that one drone company is the only one that's going to be making drones, whether it's DJI or 3D Robotics or people building drones. But we're going to see drones flying. I think it's going to be really exciting to see drones fly like the ones we do in this video, where they can avoid trees and they can do maneuvers and autonomous flight. And the drones we're seeing today are going to be considered super dumb.
Sure.
Like a year or two from now. And that's what I think is exciting about the Phantom 4. Not that it can fly faster or not that it's easier to fly, but that it's the first step. I don't think it's there yet, not close to there, but it is that first step toward the trusting the drone more and trusting the systems, the sensor systems and the software, the algorithms.
So what was exciting to me about the Skydio video, I mean, we can talk about the 3DR one too, is the first time that I've seen one of these demo videos that it made it harder to identify how they were keeping it under control in the video. Like, you watch those viral Lily drone videos that looked fantastic. This was much more like a trail through the woods down near Stanford and then biking along it and just the drone sort of going up and down and through trees.
Yeah.
Pretty impressively.
It strikes me as the shot that worked.
Yeah, okay.
That's
fair.
the other
fair.
thing too, right? Because the Lily drone stuff, you can also tell. Like in the Lily drone, I think it was Kickstarter or crowdfunded quadcopter where you carry it with you, you toss it, and then it follows you. And the video that they produced had it following, people in rafts basically. And watching that, you can tell, okay, that's still as unpredictable as the white watering or your rafting environment is. That's still controlled. It's not avoiding trees, pedestrians, street lamps. It's wide open space, and they got their best shot. Like,
right.
Anytime you watch a YouTube video where something crazy is happening, you should ask yourself, did they shoot this 500 times and then just pick the best shot, right? Because that helps.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to belittle this. The fact that it did work even once is impressive because it's
Right.
going under trees that whole time.
Yep.
We should go try to check them out.
I think that's absolutely something we should do. Yeah. A lot of cool places we're going to. But yes, it's something I'm keeping in mind as I'm testing the Phantom 4.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that stuff is going to work. It's going to be limited by the cameras they have on board now, but you can only expect the software to improve. There was really no way to move on to the next topic. But I do want to talk about Lionhead Studios. You guys know about this studios? Peter Molyneux Studios?
It was Peter Molyneux's studio. Yeah, he started it after Bullfrog, and they launched with Black and White.
Yeah.
Yep, he brought a bunch of people over from Bullfrog, the company that made Magic Carpet, among other games like Populous.
Dungeon Keeper?
Populous, that's right, Dungeon Keeper.
And he started in Black and White, and now probably better known for Fable.
Yes.
The studio's closing.
Yeah.
And the next Fable game has been canceled.
Well, Microsoft had purchased the studio along and kept Peter Molyneux on until they finished the current Fable game years ago.
So this is a Microsoft decision, not
Yes.
a studio decision, or
I think it is a Microsoft
or he really
decision.
wants to go to a Molly Jam and decided to
What?
I'm kidding.
What's a Molly Jam?
One of those gaming jam things.
Oh.
I think it's a Twitter account that conceptual games as envisioned by Peter Molyneux.
Oh, gotcha.
Because he's always one of those
Right.
big conceptual designers.
Yeah.
What if?
He's a salesman.
Do you remember that Connect demo that they made where he was talking to the virtual child?
Yeah.
And he gave the best E3 press announcements, with the first Fable talking about loving your virtual pet. And he was right. He was prescient about a lot of that stuff. The emotional connection, how important that's going to be. And in many ways, the games like Dungeon Keeper and Black and White, more specifically, are way more relevant today than ever, especially with the VR landscape. That's a game I really wish we could play in virtual reality.
Yeah, it would be perfect for that.
Where you are the
Especially
god view, and you can go duck down
Motion controls,
with
maybe.
motion controls and puppet and caring for a beast. Yeah, it makes me want to go play Black and White 2 again.
Yeah, I'm sorry to see him close down. Although I can't say I've ever played a Fable game. I understand they're highly respected. I just have never had the time for that.
Any reason given?
It's
Like
money.
the standard reason.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah,
Did you know Media Molecule spun off of Lionhead?
I did not know that.
Yep. They were some of the Black and White team.
All right. I think that's all the technology news we want to talk about this week. Of course, there's the ongoing Apple litigation and threats from the FBI. And the last thing we heard from that was that there was an organization that released a way for the FBI to prevent the phone from deleting itself, and so they could still do their brute force method. And so it completely would bypass the FBI's reason for needing Apple to create custom firmware so that the phone wouldn't brick itself.
Who claimed that they could do this?
I forget the name of the organization, but I think it was just released. They said, okay,
Really?
hey FBI,
Yeah.
here's a way you don't need. If the whole point of this is just to access this one phone, and it's not about precedence or anything, then here's a way you can back up the phone,
Great.
restore it, and then try your brute force method to unlock it.
What, does the software blow up like Mission Impossible style afterwards?
There was a ton of BS coming out of this in the past week. Also, I didn't want to dive into this too deeply, but there are claims that I don't know if the FBI claims, but there was that the phone had some crazy
Pathogen?
pathogen James Bond style network worm that was dormant.
Yeah.
And no.
No, I think that was the California police. That wasn't the FBI.
My favorite is anything John McAfee has said on the topic has been just so batshit
Didn't he
crazy.
claim he claimed to have hacked it? Or
No, he
be
claimed he
able to hack
could.
Yeah, and then presented his way of doing it on TV.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, that won't work, dude.
And he said he prefaced that by saying this will probably get me banned from all of the hacker conferences.
That's right. That's right.
Oh boy.
Edward Snowden actually also called BS on the FBI, saying that their claim that they couldn't get through the phone was BS, in as many words.
You know what also might end up being BS is, have you heard about the Nefertiti 3D scan, the hack Nefertiti?
No.
Like the Egyptian Nefertiti?
The Nefertiti is one of the most famous sculptures.
Oh,
in
the
world.
bust of
the
Nefertiti.
bust of Nefertiti, beautiful bust, which now I think is in a German museum. And as artifacts and art goes, there's always controversy about where these pieces should be housed, and there's a lot of bad blood in history and documentaries about this kind of stuff. And a group claimed that they symbolically freed Nefertiti, the bust of Nefertiti, from the museum by covertly scanning it in a high-resolution scan and releasing the files online and saying, okay, well, even though we can't get the physical object back to its home, we've now given you the files and did a covert,
How do you covertly 3D scan something?
that's where no one really investigated.
You
And it-
scan some stuff into 3D.
I
Like,
scanned you 10 minutes ago.
oh shit!
Whoa. And now it turns out that that 3D model may not actually have been a Nefertiti original scan, and it could have just been, I think it may be a hoax, that it was just a version of one that was previously released. The people said that they did it with a hacked Microsoft Kinect, which they smuggled into the museum under their scarves.
I mean, eventually this will be able to be done, right? You'll be able to take a cell phone and scan things in a few years, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Photogrammetry and whatnot.
but
Right.
doing it covertly.
Yes,
without
I mean,
the museum knowing. I'm
it'll
not
look
so
like you're
sure.
taking a picture.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. In the future, that this would not surprise me, but not yet.
I mean, you can go to a museum and people can set up an easel and paint. Right? You can copy a painting.
That's right.
At a museum.
I actually like the idea of them open sourcing this. Why wouldn't the museum want this to happen? And the Smithsonian's doing a lot of 3D, scanning of their stuff, and it'll be sort of kind of open source. Like, I feel like it should be.
Absolutely.
Bring the museum out to where everyone can enjoy it.
Well, the museum has been silent about this, so they haven't made any statement about it. I think it's a touchy subject, and the thing that the hoax has brought about is just more awareness about the controversy of ownership, art and where art should be displayed.
Maybe they should just have a fake button on Thingiverse now.
Yeah. Well, another piece of 3D printing news that isn't a hoax is that you can now, there's a service that lets you scan yourself and get a 3D printed version of yourself on a basically nude body. They're calling it a nudie.
What?
Yes.
I have a nude body.
Well,
Well, you-
if
like-
you don't want to scan your own nude
Oh,
body.
I see. So I get
So wait,
scanned with my clothes on.
Yes.
Okay.
I have
Use just your
questions.
head.
I have
Yes.
tormented questions. So, if you're doing the scan with your clothes on, how do they have like a selection of nude
That's
bodies
what they
to
have.
choose from?
They have body
Oh
types.
no.
Yep. All you got to take is 2 pictures, a photo face on and a photo in profile, and their software will create a version of a 3D model. It's the same company I think that did the I may not the same company, but it's the same type of service that previously you could put your head on a Star Trek figurine or something like that. But now the company's called Firebox, and the service is called Nudie, Nudee.
Hey, Norm, have you figured out your cake topper for your wedding yet?
That's not going to be it.
That's pretty
No.
good.
That's
No?
that's not going to be. And to answer that question, yes,
Well,
it's already something's already in the works.
I think you should surreptitiously, 3D scan him,
Absolutely.
and we can.
You could do secret nudies of people. That's scandalous. Yeah, let me take a picture of you. Oh, I didn't get that. Let me take a picture from the side.
Yeah.
And then 6 to 8 weeks later, bam! What is this? A 7.8-inch figurine of you wearing underwear
On a flattering
Wow,
torso.
on an unflattering torso.
7.8 inch. Wow.
That's what
That's a big
software
figure.
said.
What is this Star Wars news you skipped over?
Oh, 2 release date pieces of news regarding release dates. I know you're very excited about Overwatch. It's coming out May 24th.
Heck yeah.
PC first.
And they announced a beta for all pre-orders that started about 3 weeks early.
All right,
Oh,
very good.
awesome.
And also, Star Wars: The Force Awakens comes out on Blu-ray April 5th.
Oh, Blu-ray.
It comes out digital download April 1st.
No kidding.
Does not feel soon.
That's less than a month.
It's still in theaters.
It's still in theaters. In
Well-
my mind, I'm like, I actually thought about rewatching it in theaters last weekend. And I know it's a movie that came out 3 months ago.
Yeah.
But wow, it seems like a really quick turnaround for such a big movie from theatrical release to Blu-ray. But I guess now they're riding that wave. And
I thought they would hold it for Christmas just because
Oh my
they
gosh.
had. No, but they had to shift back the date on the second movie.
well, there's a new movie coming out this
Yeah.
Christmas.
Oh, that's right.
Rogue One.
I forget that. I thought that's the one that got pushed.
No. Episode 8 got pushed back to 2017 Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be summer 2017.
It's funny. This was The Force Awakens was the only Star Wars movie not released in May. You know, it was the first of all 7 to
Well,
be
it
released
won't
in December.
be-
It won't be the last. I
won't
mean,
be the
why mess
last.
with something that worked?
I think the Lucasfilm definitely and Disney, they're gonna have a little bit of a challenge promoting this next film because it is a Star Wars movie. It's technically it's not a spin-off. It's not a
Oh, you think
sequel.
people will be confused? That like the layman may go in expecting to see
Episode 8?
Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
Rey, BB-8.
And I think expectations, I assume expectations for this are going to be just as high.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like, you know how Marvel, Avengers is going to make a bajillion bucks and those are event movies, but then you have your in-between movies, and this feels like an in-between movie. But even for Marvel/Disney, the in-between movies, your Captain America is as big as an Avengers now. Like Iron Man 3 is as big as an Avengers
It's the
movie.
same time period, right? This is going to shift.
Right. So those with the Marvel shared universe, you're telling a sequential story, right? You're just checking in with the characters
Exactly.
and making these big side events. This one, it is telling a separate story. It's a prequel.
I hadn't thought about that. That's going to be interesting to see how they launch those trailers and
Right.
get people to understand what's going on.
I think that it'll be tempered because there is that so much like built up energy around it being about Force Awakens coming out. You don't think they'll be diminished somewhat?
I do think it'll be diminished somewhat. I think people want Star Wars, first of all. Kids are going to want Star Wars no matter what.
Will it open with the Star Wars logo? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
It
Well,
will?
I think they're calling it a Star Wars story, or
Anthology, right?
they've swapped it around so many
Maybe it
times.
won't, though. Maybe it'll be different. Maybe it won't even have an opening crawl.
No, it has an opening. I'm pretty sure it has an
How
opening.
dare you? How dare you, sir?
The continuity must be maintained.
I'm not talking about episode 8 here.
I know.
All right.
Yet I don't think they would go so far as to not give you your Lucasfilm chime, your Star Wars splash, your John Williams opening, and your opening crawl.
You don't think so?
Think about the sacrifice the rebels in that movie made.
I know.
So
And
you
you're
think
sullying their memory.
you're and the Bothans. You think the opening crawl should only be reserved for chapters?
Maybe. Maybe that's how they differentiate it. Maybe we know immediately when the movie starts that, hey, this is different.
That seems like a squandering of the Star Wars name.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know that. This could be even better than Force Awakens
You're going too far.
if they mix it up.
Leave,
No,
Jeremy.
No, actually, I don't mind that last statement. I think it could be a better
I hope
movie
it's good.
as a standalone
Yeah.
movie. We know the beginning and the end of this movie, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely new characters. Also, I'm sure there'll be familiar faces since it is set between episode
3 and 4.
3 and 4, right? It's not. I was thinking between 6 and 7, but no,
Yeah.
it's not between. There are no movies set between 6 and 7 yet.
Yes,
I guess.
that's
wow. It's set between 3 and 4, but it's going to be a one-off. It's going to be a definitive ending.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because the other anthology movies, whatever they're calling them, there's one that's going to be a Han Solo movie, his origin story. So I don't know. I guess that would be set between 3 and 4 also. But those are I imagine those as standalone. What I think we can definitely expect is that this will be a different flavor of Star Wars.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, because there was the criticism that Force Awakens, now that it's been out for a while, that people are comfortable saying, is that it's too much like A New Hope, and I think that's what they wanted to make.
Right.
And with these new ones, these in between movies, even though Disney expectations are about the same
Yeah.
for Disney, they definitely are allowing the directors to branch out.
That's
and do
what-
more
I'm
interesting
excited
things.
about that.
Yes.
And I haven't seen Deadpool yet, but I understand that's kind of the Marvel equivalent of that, in that they went with an R rating, which opened it up to a different kind of story.
Right, and this is new Star Wars. Star Wars isn't going to do R.
No, I don't think so. It's Disney. They won't do R. But it does allow for that kind of outside the box thinking.
They won't do R until they're doing 3 Star Wars movies a year, like 4 Star Wars movies a year, like Marvel. Then you can have your R-rated Star Wars.
You think so?
I don't
doubt
know
it.
if I ever want to see Star Wars break the fourth wall, though.
Yeah.
Well, it's not gonna
Well, I don't think it's going to do that.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
It's a
kidding.
new force power. It's the tuneness to a different dimension, into the future, I guess, long, and distance.
Yeah.
Through distance and time to our world today. Well, Star Wars: Force Awakens comes out Blu-ray April 5th. That's what I wanted you to know about.
Thank you.
We didn't have you on the podcast last week, Kishore, but we do have you this week. So we have now time for a moment of science. Let's try this intro.
moment of science. I like watching Jeremy's enactment of the intro music.
I just felt
or
like
the
putting
transition with-
putting on a pocket protector.
We're not committing to that intro. I know a bunch of people. Thank you, first of all, for people who have sent intros and outros in. We've listened to most of them. I haven't had time to go through all of them. As the lead in A Moment of Science, what feeling are you going for?
Oh, I
Give the people out there some direction.
you want to give me some values? I'm a jokey, not serious person, so I think something sort of whimsical.
What do you want to a whimsy? You want to
A little bit of whimsy.
I think go straight to MC Hawking
Ooh,
and
yeah.
have him compose something.
I do like that. That's not so bad.
Wow, I don't. MC. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
There's a reason, probably, but.
Wow.
Let's start with some New Horizons information. So you remember New Horizons did a flyby of Pluto, and we got to see some fantastic pictures.
Yes.
One of, I think, the underreported stories is that it's going to be months till we get all of the data back because transmitting data over that distance doesn't go as fast as you want it to.
Do you know how fast it does go by any chance?
I don't know the exact bit rate, but it'll take at least another 4 or 5 months to download the rest of the data. Thanks, Comcast. And
I know that the asteroid bit rate was 1 kilobit per second.
When they did Philae?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a little bit farther, so I think it's even slower. What was interesting is that a new set of pictures came back, and it showed a series of images on a mountainous region of Pluto called...
Cthulhu.
Yeah, that is ominous, I'm going to have to say. And it looks snow-capped, which is strange, being on Pluto. And what it is, it's actually methane sort of snow, if you will.
No way.
And so they are still working out some of the chemistry components of what they think is happening. But they're you know how we have a water cycle here on Earth. They think there's sort of a methane cycle that's sort of induced by nitrogen in the atmosphere there, in the sort of like minor atmosphere there. And so there's sunlight that is sort of changing the nature of it, and it forms this sort of almost like snow-like appearance of methane.
Did we have
the peaks?
any idea that there were methane-peaked mountains on Pluto
We
before?
suspected there is methane on Pluto, but I don't think in this form. And all of this is basically done with a spectrometer, so they're seeing sort of how light is reflecting off of this to understand where it goes, and sort of brightness data, all of that. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
I am still floored that they named an area of Pluto Cthulhu. How could you do that?
I think it's an exciting name. It got us interested.
That's not what got me
Sparked
excited.
your imagination. You get the methane snow got you
The methane
excited.
snow, it's really cool because you don't think about methane in sort of a snow form.
You know, it kind of relates to that. I was just at the Exploratorium, the California Academy of Sciences, this morning, which is one of our local science centers, and the place that houses the best planetarium in the city, the Morrison Planetarium, and I got to preview their new
Incoming?
show. Incoming. I saw it this morning.
Mike Brown was in the audience. He's the one that
yes.
kicked Pluto out of the solar system.
Yes,
And he's the one that led the team that
on Planet 9.
yeah.
I met Mike Brown.
Oh no,
Yes, there was a press preview.
I'm
and
jealous.
Not too many people were there, but they definitely talked about Pluto, talked about Planet 9 a little bit, and I didn't. This is why maybe audio and even text and pictures don't do visualizations, animated visuals justice in terms of explaining the science, like space. Like reading things like the three-body problem, like you need to see a visualization of how celestial bodies move in relation to each other to understand. Like the Planet 9 phenomenon that they're hypothesizing is they're able to guess that planet exists because of these other Pluto-like dwarves that have an eccentric orbit around the Earth. And they're saying that, you know, this planet, one of the ways they can explain that these Pluto-like dwarf planets have these eccentric orbits in this orientation around the sun, is the existence of a ninth planet that has the opposite, and that has orbit that would be it's 20,000 years, right?
So they showed a visualization
They showed
of the
a visual.
perturbation in the
Yes.
Kuiper Belt,
Yes.
which that's really cool because I thought incoming was about asteroids.
Right. And so there's a portion of the presentation where they always do a live update.
Oh,
And
yeah.
So this was the part of the live update. And because Mike Brown was in the audience, they used it as an opportunity to explain Planet Nine.
Oh, that's cool. So I've seen a few different visualizations. There's a couple great GIFs out there that show that sort of issue. The exciting part, I might have said this before, is that gas giant solves a huge problem about the formation of the early solar system if it turns out that it's actually there.
It's like the three-body problem for our solar system.
Except there's like you know,
9 button.
more than 9
Yes,
bodies
yeah.
in this problem. But it's not like the 3-body problem in the sense that a lot of the planets we're talking about are in a plane and have much more predictable components than the 3-body problem, though. Speaking of, did you see Chris Anderson's tweet about the 3-body problem yesterday?
Yes, where he also tweeted an animated GIF about how the 3 bodies moving in space can be illustrated by this asteroid coming near encounter with Earth. And someone tweeted and said that was inaccurate. That's what that
Oh, really?
GIF
I
was
didn't
showing.
check it out.
But it was like that. I think illustrates how important visualizations are to explaining astronomy and
Yeah.
these kind of orbital mechanics.
Speaking of visualizations, how is the TV hunt going?
TV hunt. Well, my TV's not dead yet, so that's important. Still don't know if I'm going for a projector or a TV. Didn't buy that 65-inch 4K TV.
Have you gotten all of the buzzwords like the truest black and the deepest black?
Yeah.
Well, how about the blackest black? Are you ready for
Ooh, I like this.
Are you ready for Vanta Black?
I saw this video. It was now again something that video doesn't really illustrate what you're talking about. How black can you make black?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a strange thing, but researchers have made a black based off of a sort of a layering of carbon nanotubes. And to demonstrate how incredibly black this is, they have obviously used detectors to measure how black it is, but they took, different light sources and shined it across things that we would call black and then across this item. So they started with like a red laser and they shined it across something that was previously considered very, very black, and then across this, and the laser just disappears as soon as it hits the
Just
material.
eats it up.
Yeah, gone. And
And-
they've
and
done
that-
it with like flashlights, all sorts of different light
I think it's
sources.
important to understand what we conceive of, what we understand of as color and what black is. It's luminosity and color, different things. But when we think of something as being black, it's because it doesn't bounce light back at us.
Yes.
Right, that part of the spectrum, and the layering of the
Well, it's
the
absorbing
nanotubes,
light, yeah.
it's absorbing all light.
Like a black hole.
Now, before you get into the this will make like a really black item, like we can use it as paint. It doesn't work that way. The nanotubes aren't sort of stable. They've been able to surround it with a little bit of water in it and retain some stability, but it's sort of kind of a loose agglomeration right now. So while they have a physical unit, like its application's probably not it is not there yet.
The
But I
thing
like
that-
the name though, Vanta Black.
Vanta Black. This year's Pantone color is Vanta Black. The thing that I immediately jumped to, because one of the demonstrations they also did was how well this black material can hide a texture and imperfections in texture. Because when you think of surfaces, you can identify a surface by the light bouncing off of it. Whether it's a flat surface, whether it's a crumpled surface. But because this material doesn't allow almost any light to bounce off of it, you can have the material in any type of crumpled texture, irregular pattern, and you looking at it from any direction wouldn't be able to discern the angles and the divots or how even deep it is. So in the future, when they're able to leverage this and make actual materials out of it, it essentially becomes a cloaking device at night.
At night, yeah, in dark spaces.
Yeah. It is
Bruce Wayne, if you're listening, Vanta Black.
Vanta Black is the Batman cape.
It might be too dark then. It would be like the demon in Doom, where you see him, or if or Predator. You kind of see the outline. You can see it because it's
Because
right there.
I think that's cool. This is a cool concept. Science fiction writers take the concept, incorporate it into your into your
Speaking
next
of science
Predator
fiction,
film.
actually one of the applications they're talking about is releasing some of this to artists to actually come up with novel uses for it and novel representations. Going forward, probably the biggest news story in science this week was about a psychology study. You've heard how psychology studies have been rife with problems lately. something called the reproducibility problem or replication problem.
Not lately. No.
So one of the biggest plagues upon the field of psychology is that many of the experiments they've done, when taken under similar conditions, can't be replicated. The findings.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily invalidate the finding, but it just calls into question sort of the methodology and the conclusions that we reach
Absolutely.
based on it. Well, one of the most famous and probably one of the most cited psychology studies ever is about the notion of our willpower, that it's a consumable item, that you only have a limited amount of willpower, and once you sort of use that up, you're more susceptible to bad things. And they did a famous experiment where they laid out different sort of like snacks in front of different people, and like the people that, you know, essentially used up their willpower showed differing effects. Well, that turned into like a whole industry. That paper's been cited 3,000 times at this point, and it turned into a series of books for the authors of that paper. Really, a lot of founding work in psychology. Well, there is a set of researchers that have been trying to reproduce the results from that and can't at all. For like 4 or 5 years now, they've been at it.
Is the original scientist still with us?
Yes, they're both there.
And what does he say about this?
So there's been multiple efforts at this, and back in 2000, I think it was 11, a group tried to replicate it and found that they basically agreed with the conclusions of this. So I haven't seen a statement from the original authors, but there's sort of an issue here where there's sort of conflicting information from this. But a lot of scientists are pointing to this recent study as being much more comprehensive than some of the earlier ones. It points to a huge problem. If one of the most cited papers in psychology is wrong, we have an overall issue going forward. And the American Psychology, I always say this wrong, it's the APS, is basically trying to come up with new ways to run studies going forward, so that they have new sort of recommendations, so that this issue of reproducibility can be handled up front.
How old is the first study?
I can't remember what year.
I mean, is it decades?
Oh yeah, it's a couple decades.
I wonder, that's the kind of thing I wonder. Like, how does psychology change over time, such that maybe that's a factor?
And is there institutional resistance to rehashing studies that people
That
believe
exists.
like have already been solved?
Well, I think there's an issue. There's politics in that. Like, who's going to fund you taking on this study that's been the foundation of work for years and years and years?
Yeah.
Who pays for that? And then going up against heavyweights like this and basically calling into question their work, it's not something that most scientists are eager to take on. That's making the news. There's some really in-depth analysis of that, and you can read the initial paper. But it's one of those that has basically gotten the science community in a frenzy. The other thing that got the science community in a frenzy is there's a paper that came out in PLOS One this week that was about the motion of a hand, the way that it sort of operates, and just how complex a hand is. And in the abstract, it references this this idea that the creator endowed this hand with such complexity.
Whoa.
And people lost their shit.
Just in the abstract.
In the abstract. This is a group out of China. And in retrospect, they said the phrase they tried to use did not translate properly into English. But like, you should see the comments on the PLOS paper, which has now since been retracted, are like, we're never going to publish in this journal again. How dare you, use the word creator? It was used, I think it was used twice, but in the abstract it was used once. So I read the paper pretty thoroughly and talked about it with a couple experts, and basically they're like, this paper's kind of meh. It just, like they said it's like, no, they said like, it's not that big of a finding. It's fine.
What was the finding about hand movement?
No, it was just about robot complexity, trying to have robots mimic the complexity of hand movements across these different dimensions. And so they particularly studied these different types of motion, and didn't really come to some sort of crazy conclusion about it. But it was hilarious how everyone lost their shit. It's kind of a meh paper, but it's funny how this ideological sort of notion of we can't introduce the idea of God in science, how rigorous that's held, and what that turns into.
So what did the original writers of the paper, what was their intent that was mistranslated?
They were just trying to say the human hand is incredibly complex.
Right.
And I forget the exact Chinese phrase. If I can find the phrase,
If it's a article about robotic hands, it sounds like it just might be a cute way of saying the human hand, as if we had a creator as robots do. Maybe not.
You can't be cute in science.
Apparently not.
No.
you can't be cute in science. What are you talking about? You can't be cute in science.
Heck no.
But they have a whole statement up that we can link to. But it sounds like it was an honest mistranslation that led to all this communication. And scientists need to chill the fuck out about words like that appearing. It's basically like, it's kind of an okay paper with a typo in it.
Well, they got a lot of attention.
Unwarranted attention. I think their careers might be down the toilet now. And the last thing I'll say is, did you guys catch the eclipse yesterday?
Did not.
I was not in Hawaii.
Yeah, because you weren't in Indonesia. That's right. If you weren't in Micronesia, you couldn't see it. But I watched a live stream of it. The Exploratorium Museum here locally had a stream up, and NASA had a stream up. And I encourage you to go watch the video of it, because there's this really beautiful moment when the eclipse happens. You can see something called prominences, which are basically the sun shooting out little sort of like flares and stuff that you can see that I've never seen before during an eclipse with this kind of image quality. It's beautiful to see it. I think it was one of the best things I saw all week. So watch that video of the total solar eclipse.
Well, one of the best things I've seen this week, and hopefully you guys out there, is our new project. It's not science related. It's paranormal science related.
Oh, you got to hit the button then. Paranormal science.
Paranormal.
Get us out of here.
Paranormal science related. It is the Ghost Trap from Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters. And this is what I was alluding to when we mentioned Ghostbusters earlier on the show. Sean Charlesworth of Tested has designed and built and 3D printed, assembled, and finished a Ghost Trap. A movie-accurate ghost trap that combines the best elements of the Ghost Trap from Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2. It was an awesome project. The fact that it was modeled and then 3D printed and assembled with lots of original found parts as close as possible as the original hardware. He did all this incredible research. We have a video up about that on the site now. And then later this week, we'll have another more in-depth video where Jeremy and I also go in-depth about the design process. Because Jeremy, you also worked on it.
I worked on the code for it. But this was all Sean. I already had a lot of respect for Sean, but watching him go through this process of designing this in a myriad number of parts, of putting it all together and making it look like the real movie prop, it is an engineering marvel, and I'm highly impressed. And it's a very cool thing.
Right.
There was such commitment to like everything being 3D printed, except for like some screws, right?
And it's not a matter of just designing a shell and then printing a solid model. It's a kit that comes together, snap fits, screws together.
Yeah.
It comes together in a logical way. Pieces are printed in a way that best shows off the 3D printed lines. And also you can sand it down and prime it, and also print it yourself with a pretty standard 3D printer.
My favorite thing is it also makes smoke in order to replicate like the effect that the original Ghost Trap had. And he engineered smoke cavities into the device itself, so that
Channels,
so that when the e-cigarettes pumps at the bottom, they start to emit it, they travel up and get dispersed evenly throughout the opening of the
That exemplifies
awesome.
the kind of fabrication that you can't do if you were just sculpting it by hand,
right,
or routing it on and building it but with wood or MDF or something, because he had to get all the mechanics built in with the moving doors and everything. So it's a wonderful, wonderful project. Like I said, we'll have more videos about this project, and Sean's going to be releasing the files for that. So if you have a 3D printer, you can print it yourself.
Yep. Along with my source code?
Along with Jeremy's source code. And Sean, I think, has assembled a few hardware kits. So if you print it out and you need the right screws and the right plates and everything else, he'll sell that on his Etsy store. So stay tuned for
That's
more
awesome.
information.
Congratulations, Sean, wherever
that.
you are.
Lovely, lovely project. Before we move on to our next segment, I also want to thank another sponsor of this week's podcast, and that's 3D Robotics. 3DR is America's largest drone maker. Their Solo Smart Drone is the first drone optimized for your GoPro. They have built-in compatibility with GoPro, so you can get live HD videos straight to your mobile screen and have full control of the camera from the ground. 3DR made Solo smart because flying has gotten easy, but getting cinematic shots still takes a lot of practice. And Solo has an extra onboard computer that turns practice time into software. Solo works like your automated personal camera crew. The Hollywood Toolkit at your fingertips. It's basically an aerial motion control stick in a backpack. The smart shots guide both the drone and the camera automatically to capture smooth and cinematic shots that not even pro cinema pilots can get. Cable cam is a mode that you can get for shooting a story from with multiple frames, or orbit to wrap around circles and towering and mind-blowing spirals that no other drone or pilot can imitate. Just tell Solo where to go, push play, and Solo does it all. It can even follow you. 3DR gives a Solo away every month to one of their email subscribers, and you can sign up for that newsletter today to learn more about drones at 3dr.com/tested. That supports us, and thank 3DR for supporting This Is Only a Test. And now it's time for Virtual Reality This Week.
I think Jeremy's already in the VR world.
The bliss of virtual reality. Countdown to launch day. We are about 2.5 weeks away from
Wow.
VR being a real.
Heck yeah. Oculus Rift launch day, you mean?
Oculus Rift launch day, and 1 week after HTC Vive
That's
launch
right.
day on April 5th. April 5th, you can get Star Wars Blu-ray and the HTC Vive. There you go. And GDC is next week, of course, which we're hoping to see a lot of virtual reality announcements and to get new software announced, new demos. One of the new things announced this week that will be shown at GDC is Valve's their VR demo, I guess. Now,
We talked last week about
did.
the possibility of them releasing anything first party for the Vive. And you said, absolutely not. We're too late in the game. It sounds like we're at least getting something.
technically it's first party. It's not what we were expecting. And I
not a game.
maintain that if Valve was going to announce a full-blown, let's call it Portal 3, Half-Life 3, whatever
Right.
game for
Right.
VR, they would have done so. They wouldn't wait till the hardware was already out there, right? But what they have announced is the Lab, which is a series of room-scale VR experiences and experiments that demonstrate the capabilities of VR, room-scale VR, of course, with the HTC Vive, set in the Aperture Science Pocket Universe,
Great.
which sounds great. And if this ends up being more than just short, 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute demos, and this, I'm crossing fingers that this is the mini game, the Wii Sports that we were talking about last week. If it ends up being that, then I'll take it back. And yes, this is the first party.
That
Wii
would
Sports thing.
require multiple players, I would think, in order to have any kind of longevity like that. You don't think so?
I think that if it was as good as a series of, the Space Pirate Simulator, if it was arcade games
Okay.
my expectation is that right now is that these are going to be cool demos you can use to and try once or twice, kind of like the
Yeah.
Aperture Robot Repair demo. But what I'm hoping for are repeatable experiences.
That would be
things I
great.
want to go in and try out. And I'm hoping also to see different uses of VR, room scale VR, that we haven't seen from other developers also.
You know it's going to have a layer of polish and whimsy that a lot of indie developers just aren't experienced enough to create yet.
Yeah, I mean, the Aperture Science Robot Repair demo is still probably the best, most polished, graphically best looking VR demo, room scale VR demo I've seen so far. Right. And that's only like a
You don't think they
4-minute
tried
thing.
to rush it just to get out with launch?
I don't think so. No, I think it's interesting that they haven't announced anything until now. I imagine that's because they don't want to overshadow the indies.
That's right. Also, yeah, I mean, they want to sell systems. They like Oculus want this new generation of VR to be successful. And I think it's still not perfectly ready because they said the release for this would be in spring. It's going to be free for everyone.
The Lab.
The Lab.
So it's not at launch.
Not at launch. It's
Oh,
spring.
okay.
Available in spring 2016.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it'll be previewed at GDC.
Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get to try that out next week.
And Oculus just announced something similar.
Just
I guess Unity did. Or who made it? I guess it was Oculus. It was Oculus's Unity toolkit.
Yes, that's just a toolkit though.
It's a series of examples of VR interaction. Yeah,
What-
in Unity spaces.
The thing that also Oculus announced as we were recording this podcast, new social features. So starting on 310, which is today for you guys listening, anyone with a Gear VR will be able to create profiles and search for friends. This is the friends list coming to Oculus
Whoa.
Home and Social, just announced.
So what
as
kind
we're
of
recording.
what kind of stuff can you do? Can you go into like create rooms or
New features include, I'm just going to read basically the press release, social games, new made-for-VR games that let you team up with friends or compete against them in games like Social Trivia, which is an experience created by Oculus, and multiplayer adventure game Hero-Bound Gladiators. So Hero-Bound is a Gear VR game where it's kind of like Zelda, and it's the same people who are doing Chronos.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a new version of Hero-Bound called Hero-Bound Gladiators that will be multiplayer VR for Gear VR. That's cool.
So wait, how does it work? Is there an overlay? Is it
Yeah,
sort
you
of like
can-
Steam?
There's a picture up on my screen here. Yeah, but there's like an overlay of your heads, and you can use the voice chat to kind of talk and strategize. Looks pretty cool.
Oculus Video is also putting up Facebook video content. So using Oculus Video, which is their virtual cinema, to load 360 video feeds based on the pages you like. So this is the first real integration of Facebook into Oculus, which we knew was going to happen. It was one of the reasons they bought Oculus, and it's they don't have direct YouTube built in. You can watch YouTube, of course, with the internet browser in Gear VR, but to have this built into Facebook or Oculus Video makes a lot of sense. And then you could also create chat rooms in Oculus Social for Twitch
awesome.
and video streams. So this is previously was a beta feature, and now I think it's finished.
The Unity thing is it's a Oculus sample framework for Unity 5. It's an experimental sandbox for VR developers and designers. Simple scenes that illustrate solutions to typical problems in VR.
All right. Very excited for all of that stuff. Also related to Oculus, we're expecting a lot more multiplayer experiences and games be demoed at their GDC event. But Palmer Luckey did talk also briefly about Macintosh and VR. A little bit of shade. Macs, their best Macs aren't powerful enough. Now,
That was interesting, though, that he didn't just say the MacBook line, but he said if you get the most powerful Mac Pro, which I think is insanely expensive, $7,000 or something like that.
sure.
It comes with an AMD card that still does not meet the Oculus Rift minimum spec.
And that's because those are workstations. The cards are built for video processing and not for gaming. And
Yeah.
Mac is never, even though you have things like Steam on Mac and you can play a lot of those games on Mac, the OS and the driver software, it's just not made for high frame rate gaming at high resolutions.
Right.
I don't think there's much pressure on them to do it either.
Who, Apple?
Yeah, like right now.
Why not?
I just haven't heard the clamor that like why doesn't my MacBook Pro support VR yet?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess this is the start of it. I mean, maybe some people want. I bet they are losing. Oculus would sell more, certainly, if Mac supported it. I don't know how many more.
And I think Palmer said this, media took it as a very sensational thing, but
Yeah.
I think he said it to get Apple into the VR game because he knows as well as everyone else that it's a huge market of people with a lot of money to spend, people who are buying MacBook Pros, because there may be way more PCs out there, but in terms of how much people spend on hardware on the Mac side, if you're going to spend $2,000 on a MacBook Pro, and Palmer wants Apple then to make these laptops, make these desktops powerful enough so that those people can also spend
Sure.
$600 on an Oculus Rift.
Yeah, the VR market is the problem right now, since nobody has them, and they're trying to grow the whole idea. I'm sure they would love to have the entire Mac platform as a possible, part of their market share. But Apple is, rumored to be working on their own VR stuff.
That's right. They've visited
maybe
Stanford's Human
they're not
Interaction
interested.
Lab. I don't know if it's too late. I mean, it's definitely not too late. But if Apple were to do it, I want them to do it completely differently. And I feel like the missed opportunity, like if Tim Cook and the Apple team, I'm sure they've experimented and they've assigned people to research at least into the different fields, next gen human computer interaction fields. But if they were to devote resources, right, like maybe they're working on a car right now, and that's a lot of money to spend on a division to build a whole new product line for a car. Because Apple doesn't come out with 30 new product categories a year. They kind of focus on the one thing and then iterate on the previous lines. And some of that stuff, like the iPod and stuff, gets phased out as fewer people are interested. But if they were to focus on next gen stuff, past the phone, past the tablet, I would want them to do AR more than VR.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe that they have their eye down the road a little bit.
Right. And And I'm happy that Oculus and HTC are doing VR and have plans, and Facebook has plans for their next couple of years, next generations of technology. Like it doesn't feel like it's going to be a one generation thing and bust. Like it's a long term plan.
Oh my gosh, I feel like this is tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah, infancy.
Speaking of tip of the iceberg, have you been trying out your
Yes.
your Vive?
Yes, so we got the Vive in last week. I've been using it a lot, and we'll be shooting some videos soon, hopefully to come out ahead of GDC. I think, Jeremy, you and I are shooting some videos tomorrow even about it. It's a lot of fun. I mean,
What have you been playing?
so when you install the Vive, people who have early access to the Vive Pre get access to a selection of some demos, and developers working in with the Vive and with Steam VR can allow their demos as they want to be open to these early beta units. So things like Job Simulator is there, obviously the Fruit Ninja thing is there, the Robot Repair Lab, but I've also been soliciting some beta keys directly from some other developers. So I've been trying some cool things. There's a piece of software called Modbox, which is it's a room environment building, a sandbox, VR sandbox, and there are preloaded environments like a room or a playground or an actual sandbox or a castle, but then you can manipulate objects and load in tools and physics-based things. Super fun. I've been playing a game called Waltz of the Wizard, which is also like a VR demo experience. It's like a potion crafting game. So you're in a tower, and you make combinations of objects, 3 different types of objects to make potions and spells, and through your experimentation, unlock spells that kind of explore what room scale VR is. So scale changing, teleportation, fireball throwing, and cool physics-based things. So having fun with that. The makers of Modbox also made a game called Maximum VR, which I'm enjoying a lot. It's a Godzilla type simulator. It's a kaiju simulator. Very cartoonish graphics, but it really is fun with scale.
Does it use the haptics at all? Like when you hit things or anything?
I think a little bit.
Yeah.
But this one, because there is a teleportation mechanic, and I said in the past with some demos, like in my quick play tests of Budget Cuts, which uses portals to teleport you, I was teleporting myself way more than walking around because it was just faster to teleport myself. With this Maximum VR monster simulator, you could also teleport yourself kind of around this big, downtown city area. But I'm really encouraged when I'm teleported to a spot to then walk around and break through buildings and walk down the street and pick up cars and throw them and stuff like that. So I think it balances that a lot more. Also playing a lot of Budget Cuts, having just fun with the mundane things. I think, Valve put out these roundtables, 2 long video roundtables.
Those are great.
Yeah. Great conversations with the developers who attended the Steam VR Developer Showcase, talking about their experiences, the things that they've learned, showing people VR, developing for VR, answered a few of the questions I had that I didn't get a chance to ask them directly about why they made game design decisions the way they did. Also playing Budget Cuts. I love the mundane things. And one of the things that these developers talked about was how fun it is just to sit in a VR game just throwing things around. And once you get a system right and it works perfectly how you would expect in the real world, I spent half an hour in Budget Cuts just throwing knives against a wall, practicing my aim.
Really?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And my arm got tired the next day. Like, wow, that was a good workout.
Exercise.
Where are you set up in your office?
I'm set up in my home office, surrounded by computers and other tables and stuff, and I don't have nearly the 15 by 15 foot or big play space. So, in some experiences like the Aperture Repair Lab, I couldn't even reach to a point to activate the next step in the demo.
Can't you send your wand out in virtual reality against the wall that's in front of you by pressing a button? I remember doing that with the Vive months ago.
I don't think so.
I'm sure that it's a case by case basis. They have to
Yeah.
implement that, but
Right.
some software does.
Have you had any trouble though, like with that limited space, or have you been using like Chaperone and the other stuff to kind of know your limits?
I've definitely knocked into things. I've had more trouble knocking into things in front of me than walking past the chaperone system. I think there are different degrees of the chaperone system. I think last night they just enabled the Tron mode camera.
Oh yeah.
Is it like fully looks like Tron?
It's just like there's a camera in front of the Vive and
Yeah.
overlays. It processes the imagery with a wide angle view, so you can see the real world in a
Really
hyper
interested in how well
stylized
that
version. But the chaperone system has been perfect for the boundaries in my room. but I've still knocked into like tables a little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't done the thing where I've set the Vive controller on top of a virtual table or try to sit down or lean against a virtual object.
So nothing broken, no injuries.
Nothing broke, no injuries.
It's only been a week.
The thing that has happened is because I have a window in my room, the lighthouse has sometimes the laser pounces off the window, and there are brief moments where the tracking loses and it gets really shaky, and I've lost my balance a few times. Just like I have to close my eyes and stabilize myself because I'm playing hover junkers or something, and suddenly the world is shaking around me. Yeah.
Did you see the unseen diplomacy video on Reddit/r/Oculus today?
No, what is that?
Highly recommend watching it. It's an 8-minute video of a experiment in making the most of a limited play space. So this guy has maybe an 8-foot square space that he can use with his Vive, and this is 8 minutes of exploring a space, and you never stay in the same room. He's constantly moving from room to room, crawling through ventilation shafts, unscrewing trap doors, and moving through, hitting buttons, exploring drawers, and basically like navigating his way out of this science fiction.
So he designed an environment
jail.
where the volumetric space is physically not that big,
Right.
But because of the virtual walls, he's able to spend an incredible amount of time in that space.
And he'll get in elevators and transition toward, to different floors. But even without doing that, he still makes so many twists and turns in crawling through, ventilation shafts and turning corners around hallways that you lose track of where you are, even though you actually would be in the same space as you were a moment ago. This looks to me as if it fools the brain into thinking that you're exploring a much larger space. It's really neat. It's a worthwhile experiment because one of the things that I'm concerned about is only having room scale for one space, and how can I move through space in a way that's not teleporting? And this shows that there's a possible way to do that.
I mean, that even applies to sitting environments, like sitting experiences, where you could have a, let's say, 2 feet by 4 feet by 2 feet area in front of your computer that you could micro move and navigate around your head around, and that would be fun. Cool. Let's see. There's going to be a lot of VR video out this year. Amazon is rumored to be working on VR for video. The Olympics are some of the Olympics in addition to be broadcast
this year's
in
Olympics
in
Wow.
8K
Now,
also.
what does that mean, though?
360 video. I think it means that we're
360
filming.
degree 2D video?
We don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine not like positionally tracked the experiences.
Get in the pool with Michael Phelps.
Oh boy. Olympic Village VR edition. And of course, I think next week we'll have a lot more stuff to talk about because of GDC. PlayStation has an event, Oculus has an event, and of course Valve has their stuff too.
When are we recording next week?
I don't know. Toward the end of the week, I'm leaving the country at the end of
Thursday,
next week.
right?
Thursday,
Yeah.
end of Thursday, I
Okay.
think, for a week and a half. So we'll definitely have a podcast out, and we're booked like solid next week. We're
You're doing demos like every day.
Sunday through Wednesday.
How many days are you spending at the Oculus they have a whole 3 days almost separate from GDC, right?
We'll be doing a full day with the Oculus stuff.
Nice.
So we'll be doing all the demos and getting as much out there as possible for you guys. And that will do it for the VR Minute. Let's move to our final segment, which is testing this week. Hey, what have you guys been testing? Jeremy?
Oh, man. I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah, this is a brand new segment, Jeremy. We've never done it before.
I don't know. The coolest thing probably... no, I don't know. You go, Kishore.
Well, I'm actually doing a live update of the Android N beta right now.
Wow, there we go.
So it's installing. It's about 80% right now. That's the that, and I did order the Echo Dot. So those are the two things that I'm going to be testing when that sort of comes out.
I had Danica order it. because the Echo is at home. So I texted to say, can you say say this key phrase, say this phrase to Alexa now. And then I got the email confirmation a few minutes later, your dot has been ordered.
Nice.
Unlock my ordering powers. Unlock the Alexa's ordering powers. Don't teach your children how to order things from Alexa.
Yeah, don't get the dash button either for them.
No,
Yeah.
they'll get in trouble.
No.
How about you, Norm?
I've been testing two things primarily. One is the Carvey. In addition to the Phantom 4 and stuff we talked about and ongoing stuff. The Carvey is a CNC milling machine. Been cutting some things, having fun with it, learning bits, just learning what bits to use for the right projects. And cleanup. It's a lot of cleanup afterward for dust and different materials. But having fun, making some signs, making some placards. We'll be doing a review of that next month. But it's interesting to design things in like 2.5D and think of like, okay, if I want something, if I have a 2-inch piece of wood, what can I carve into this that you couldn't do with a laser cutter, or that you couldn't do with it's a hand drill or something, right?
Have you been trying a lot of different materials too?
Yeah, they sent us a couple different materials. The thing I really like is the high density polyurethane board, which is like stacked with different layers. So there's about 0.05 inch of one color, and then white in the center, and then a color on the bottom. So you can carve just the 0.05 inch deep into it and reveal the white, and so you get nice contrast. So stuff like that. Other thing I've been testing is the Eero. It's a Wi-Fi router, but it's not just one box. It's actually up to as many boxes as you want. It's a mesh network router system. They did a crowdfunding campaign, and now it's in. They've released it.
Well, how does that differ than other routers that can be run concurrently?
So the idea is that this is a lot like OnHub, where you have a web app interface. You never type in the IP address to set it up.
Okay.
Set up via web. You have one router. You plug it into your modem, or you could plug in as a new router into an existing Ethernet or network switch, right? And so it creates an access point, and then additional Eeros you can buy, or you can buy a pack of 3. It was $500 for a pack of 3 with pre-order. Then you can put those around different parts of your house, and as long as they're about 40 feet apart, they will create a mesh network.
That you mean they communicate wirelessly on a protocol that's not 802.11?
I'm not sure exactly what the protocol is, but
It doesn't slow down your Wi-Fi,
it appears as one network.
but normal Wi-Fi extenders slow down your Wi-Fi. It sounds like they've found a way around that.
Slow down overall. So, for example,
They provide a stronger signal. Sometimes it's the lesser of two evils.
yes, it is the lesser of two evils.
Okay.
That's what it is. Your signal to the first, like, if you set up a series of these, right?
Yeah.
And you had your Wi-Fi analyzer or your speed test at unit 1 next to your modem or your existing router, that's going to be your best signal.
Okay.
Right? Your however many decibels of strength you get. If you go down the chain and you go all the way to the end, you do a speed test, it's still going to be 50 megabits. It's still going to be maximizing 802. You're maximizing your cable. But it'd be much better than if you didn't have the chain.
Yeah. I'm gonna check this out.
So you can build your own repeater and extender network.
But they're offering the convenience of
you're paying for convenience and ease of setup. Yeah, and you can use you can use just one, you can use 2, or you can use 3. I think they sell either as a 1-pack or a 3-pack. Yeah, but it really I think this is kind of like for parents, for people who don't want to have to deal with Wi-Fi. It works through walls, works through floors.
I know how to get through MS-DOS, and I don't want to deal with Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just so hard. It's getting harder. It's like a Wi-Fi warfare with your neighbors. There's so many access points I can see from my house.
finding an open channel.
Well,
especially
see,
for
this one
streaming,
doesn't let you
crazy.
find the open channel because they'll just pick the channel for 5 gigahertz, for 2.4 gigahertz, and all of them work on the same channel. All of them within that.
Oh, they don't find their own channel?
I don't think they find it because I use Network Analyzer.
Really?
Crazy. Wi-Fi Analyzer on Android to pick the signals, and it just looks. Wi-Fi Analyzer can pick up the different ones.
Yeah.
But when you look at your Wi-Fi app or on your phone or your laptop, it's going to see just the one.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be interesting to check out, though.
Yeah. Anything else, Kishore, Jeremy?
Yeah. I thought of something. So this is no big deal. I think I can say this, but I've been Adam's Star Trek chair
Yes.
has an issue with the sound, and so, or was it lights? In any case, I redesigned the circuit board for that.
Oh.
So that took a little while, but I did it from scratch in a way that is much more robust. So if anybody actually downloaded the source code for that, there'll be a new revision for that coming up later this
very-
year.
Have you
And-
already made the fix?
Yes.
You put in the new board?
Yes. So it's got the problem that it had was with it's something that was frying the teensy. So I put in some power protection into the circuit, but now I have the two teensies talking over a protocol rather than both acting independently on these button presses that they would both receive. It's much smarter. It's much more in sync now with itself. So I'm happy with it. I've never had teensies communicate this way before, so I got to learn something. And I used this service that everyone in the open source community uses that I never tried, called Osh Park, and they make circuit boards, and they're based here in America. So they're in Portland. So if you're US based, I would recommend trying them out. You get your boards back much faster than if you use one of the Chinese fab houses, and they're the ones that make purple circuit boards, and they're
cool.
quite good.
Yeah.
They are ENIG coded so that you got gold pads, and it's really quite cool, and I'm very happy with their service. Osh Park.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still have some game frames left too from the first run?
I do. Yeah, I think there's 20 some still available in the store. Those go on sale. Those will be on sale, $20 off until the 16th of this month at ledsec.com. LEDSEQ.
That's right. Check that out. And you can check out more videos. Speaking of stuff with Adam, we've been filming a lot of builds with him. We should have a video out today, hopefully, with some behind-the-scenes stuff from the Mythbusters finale. But we have more builds. We shot a couple that we haven't released yet. One-day builds, of course, and stuff from the cave. A lot of premium videos also. We're extending the offer for Adam's Toolbox. If you sign up at tested.com/membership, you can still get Adam's Toolbox drawing poster, which is very cool. And he's answering questions from premium members every week, also behind the scenes from those builds. Most recently, what did we put out? He built a dog bed for his new car, for his two puppies, Pooches, Maggie and Huxley. And next week we'll have another build as well. But thank you guys for listening, and thank you too, Jeremy and Kishore, for joining me this week on the podcast. I'm taking listener questions. Send them as an audio file or just as an email. You can send them directly to me, Norman at tested.com, or podcast@tested.com, and I'll get them to answer. Anything else? Any guys, more stuff you guys want to promote, Pam?
No. Good.
You can find Kishore. You guys are still competing for Twitter followers?
Sure.
Yeah. That
At
seems like
Jareware,
something.
at Science Quiche.
That's
no
right.
check-in.
That's right.
And-
I'll look at mine. You look at yours.
I actually did check.
Oh, where are we at?
I was ahead last night by like 30 people.
I'm 2471, and you are. This is terrible podcast.
Yeah. Norm is not involved in this competition.
Because Norm is popular.
He's the popular kid.
It's all about Instagram.
Oh, I'm down 20.
There you go.
Wow. It's neck and neck.
It's very close. It's just like AlphaGo. It's really, and just as entertaining.
Who knows who could win?
So
Stay
nervous.
tuned
It's
next
a game
week
changer.
to 5-hour webcast of our competition.
Your avatars are competing against each other. At Jareware,
That's right.
at Science Quiche, like the delicious food, the quiche, Science Quiche. And I'm at Enshan. You can find all of our stuff at Tested.com on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. This week's outro, thanks for sending new outros. I'm still soliciting more of them, comes from Robin, and it goes a little bit like this. Thank you, guys.
Hi there, I didn't see you. Tested. Norm hooked it up to his testicles.
If then that.
Yes, yes.
All right.
All right. Bye.